horror fam, best friends, and ghoulish knights, and welcome to the 16th episode of Murders with Mertens. I am your host, Joe, and this is a podcast about horror. Psychological thrillers, cosmic horror, body horror, the horror adjacent, the supernatural, scary films in general. Each episode, I sit down with a guest and discuss one of their favorite scary films so we can gush about everything that makes it just so damned cool. Viewers, thank you for the support. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you are so inclined. It all helps to get the word out and bring some much needed love to this fledgling podcast. I have a minor goal of reaching 100 subs so I can get a custom URL for the channel, so, help. But other than that, tonight, I have the absolute joy of welcoming the one, the only, Makenna May. Makenna, how's about you?
Oh, I'm so excited. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, I absolutely had to reciprocate because you and Brandon had me on for Blade Runner, and we had talked about doing this, the film that we're going to talk about tonight here for a bit, and I'm glad you had the time. This is very cool.
I'm so excited.
There is something perfect about Makenna finding older films and finding such joy in them. It's a lot of fun. It's very clear. Yeah. It's very, very clear that you and Brandon have a ton of fun on HBO Max. So yes. I'm glad that thing is continuing to roll on. It's cool.
Me too. Thank you.
Yeah. But yes, thanks for being on. Tonight's topic is 1991's The Silence of the Lambs, written by Ted Talley, adapted from the book by Thomas Harris, and directed by Jonathan Demme. What's your history with this film?
Oh gosh. So, let's see here. Well, in general, horror. I'm a big scaredy cat, so it scares me a lot. But last year, I found the book Silence of the Lambs in the bookstore. I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. Why not? It's a book. How scary could it be? Ooh, it was scary. And then, I breezed through it. I loved it. And then it took me about a month to actually sit down and watch the movie because I was really scared that I would just have nightmares. I only had a few. It was fine. It was a great movie. And then, recently I got back into the series. I watched Hannibal. Now I'm reading The Red Dragon. I have the third Hannibal book. I just love the series. I think Thomas Harris created such a good, interesting world. Good might be a strong word. An interesting world.
Yeah, there's not a lot of good that happens.
No, not particularly. No.
Bad stuff happens to a lot of, let's be honest, bad people as well.
Oh yeah, but, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Did you say you also watched the Hannibal series with Mads Mikkelsen?
I did. I just finished it last week. So good. Ends on such a big cliffhanger. So I jumped right into Red Dragon just because that was like the last half of the last season. Maybe I'll get answers. Who knows? We'll find out. I'm only in the beginning. But
okay. It's another excellent book. It's really good. If you enjoy the book, make sure to not only check out the film with Edward Norton and Anthony Hopkins, but Manhunter, the Michael Mann film from the 80s, which was the original adaptation. Have you seen this?
I haven't, but so many people have talked to me about it.
Brian Cox is an unlikely Hannibal Lecter.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, but it's such a good story, and it's just that typical Michael Mann. Okay, he's like fresh off of Miami Vice at that point, and no Last of the Mohicans or Heat yet, but yeah. But if you like Michael Mann movies, you will probably enjoy it. Well, my history is a little bit longer with this film because, the time it came out, it was a phenomenon. It was the first and only so far Best Picture winner at the Oscars for a horror film, which it very much is. There's people that are like, that's not horror. Bullshit. This is straight up a horror film.
Oh, yes.
Thrillers, and psychological thrillers, psychological horror, that all, skirts the line, of course. But yeah, sure, this is absolutely horror. It's fucking terrifying is what it is. You know, you get all these real world inspirations like Ed Gein and, you know, yeah, just the birth of FBI profiling in the late 70s, early 80s, which, I mean, this, I don't know if you've ever seen the Fincher show on Netflix. What is it? Mindhunters. Um,
Oh,
it's interesting. It's about basically the start of the FBI interviewing serial killers just so they can kind of start to wrap their heads around the phenomenon. And yeah, uh, wow, this movie. And it goes on to inspire a lot of other cool stuff too. Yeah, we'll probably get into that as we talk about it. But yeah, I probably saw it a little too young. I was probably 12 or 13. You know, it was probably like on video after this, you know, was released. I guess it was kind of a big deal because this was the first time that a movie was on home media by the time the Oscars were, you know, happening and everything. Because it used to take a long time for a lot of movies to come out, and now we get that, you know, like what, 45-day turnaround sometimes with HBO Max, and it's a little faster paced, but yeah, I saw it, thought it was just cool as hell, and then just the more I've seen this film over the years, you know, better part of 30 years really, it, it's just there's more little bits that you pick out as you're seeing it. There's a very cool style to this film. It feels very old, but very new. It's, you know, just that kind of perfect transition of the early 90s where film and music and television were just going through this interesting evolution. And oh, yeah, it's one of those for sure. Um, but yeah, it's just, and just the bits of cool pop culture shit that has come from this then over time because you know you only saw it within the past year, but I'm sure you've heard so many lines, there's so many
100%.
references. It's in the zeitgeist for sure. And
Oh yeah, there was different parts. I was like, oh, that came from this. Okay, it all makes sense now. It's all coming together.
yeah,
So
yeah,
cool.
oh, it's good stuff for sure, and it just amazing performances. uh God, it's amazing that we've gotten at least three turns from Anthony Hopkins as this character
Hmm.
now, which is great. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really enjoy Mads Mikkelsen's performance as well, but um, yeah, there's just this is the classic. This, whew,
Oh yes,
and
I will say I never had any night. Well, okay, I had one nightmare while watching Hannibal across the 3 seasons. I had multiple nightmares watching Anthony Hopkins Hannibal Lecter. Not to discount Mads Mikkelsen, but I don't. There's just something about how Anthony Hopkins plays it that's just so much more unnerving. I don't know, something about him.
yep, just continued rewatches just help to pick up so much nuance from his performance. I noticed a little thing he does that we'll get into as we get into the plot here. That just it's this fun little taunt without you even realizing it's happening until it's absolutely happening. We'll get into that. I don't really want to, you know, waste too much more time. I want to get into this. We start with some, you know, fun opening credits with a really interesting font choice. I like the font choice here. I think it's really cool. That white outline on the black lettering. It's
So bold.
it's very bold. Yes, it's not something you see used very often in film. But yeah, and it's a cool Howard Shore score. I like the score quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely it definitely sets the tone, which is I mean obviously most scores do, but like this one really it puts you in the place of like of the characters like oh feels if you feel what
Oh,
they feel
and
because
there's
it feels
something
very
else that
real.
does that, but we're gonna wait a minute before we
Yeah,
talk about that.
that too, yeah. Yeah, you
Yeah.
explained it.
Um, so we get this, you know, introduction with the score and Clarice Starling. She's, you know, running the obstacle course in Quantico, and She's just busting her ass there, and I'm thinking this is probably a period where there were not a lot of women in the FBI, so she's probably working extra hard to prove herself here. Um, but it's a very all business opening too. She's charging through this course. She's nearly hanging herself on that rope thingy when she does the little flip. I could see how that could go so wrong.
So
Um, but it's great seeing Jodie Foster do all this stuff herself too. That's fun. But she gets called off the course, and in any other movie, I think she would have gotten like all cleaned up and all done up and put on a suit to go meet with Jack Crawford, right? But no,
right.
she makes her way through all these different training sections. We're introduced to her roommate, Ardelia, um, and she's like soaked in sweat and making her way through all these places, and meets some of Crawford's coworkers that tell her to just go wait in the office. And this is where we get some awesome environmental storytelling. We see all the little clippings and photos and everything else, basically the murder board with all the twine and everything else, right?
Of
um
course, classic.
oh yes. And nobody's got time to tell her, okay, you smell like shit, go take a shower. No, because she is there for everybody, is all business, right?
Mhm.
And let's see, at this point, this is the part that is probably absolutely talked to death about this film, but I still want to talk about it quite badly. Staring contest conversation battles. Um which we get many of throughout this film, right?
Oh yes.
You get the characters speaking directly into the camera as they talk to each other.
Mhm.
And it's like this test of wills, right? It's like the person who looks away is the one who loses the conversation. Uh, but the other thing that I wanted to bring up is that this technique really makes you feel like you're in this movie, like you are part of these conversations. I
Yes.
mean, I want to hear your takes on all of this because it's like one of the most fun parts of this film that makes it just so freaking cool.
Yes. So okay, so I am a person who's terrible with eye contact, and let me tell you what: if you want to practice holding eye contact, watch this movie. Like I just found like I was just absolutely captivated. It's like, oh, I am Jodie Foster. Like this is me. I am Starling. Put me in coach essentially. And like I mentioned with the score, like you really feel like you are a part of this movie, and it just like adds that extra layer of like, oh shit, this is intense. We're in it for the long haul. Like we are going to catch Buffalo Bill. Like it. I loved this technique so much. Like you, I love it.
Yeah, and
It's
it's not
so
used in
so good.
absolutely every conversation. And there are
Right.
parts of different conversations where they cut out of it and then cut back into it.
Mm-hmm.
But still, oh God, does it ever work? And I don't know
Oh
that
my
I've seen anything like this
god. Mm-mm.
in anything before or since, really.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh
it's just so specific to this film, and
yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like I love that like extra close up too as well. Like
yeah, you
you
fill
can
the
see
frame.
everything. Yes, exactly. So good. I love it so much. So good.
There's very much a reason why this is, not only one of my favorite scary movies, but also one of my just absolute favorite films of all time. I have such a hard time pinning a specific film for any genre, let alone just like top film or anything like that. But I would say very easily this would always be in a top five. There is just so much to love here. Um, there's some stuff that hasn't aged quite so well in this film, and some stuff that a lot of people take issue with, and we'll probably get to that. But that said, oh crap, yes. So we start the first staring contest conversation battle. There's probably a funny acronym there, but I can't think about that right now. But yes, Crawford says hi to Clarice. He tells her to sit down. He brings up that he remembers her from the seminar that he taught at UVA, where he gave her an A minus. Um, and they talk about how, ultimately, she would like to come to work for him in behavioral science once she graduates. He is very much this role model to her. And well, yeah, he thinks that's just great. And he's got an interesting errand for her, Hannibal Lecter. And she just like almost barely whispers the nickname back. Yeah. Hannibal. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it tells you everything you need to know about so much of this film in these first few conversations.
Mhm.
It's not like typical exposition. It's, you're picking up what they're laying down, right?
Yes, yes, you
Uh, and this conversation and then the next just perfectly set up who Hannibal is. Because this dovetails with the conversation that she then has with the director of the, what is it, Baltimore State Hospital for the Criminally Insane,
are. Mhm.
Frederick Chilton.
Mhm.
And we also learn very quickly what a fucking creep Chilton is.
I hate him. I wrote in my notes, I hate Chilton. It's underlined in everything. I hate that dude. And if it was solidified in Hannibal, creep.
Yeah, at least they have more fun with the character in Hannibal.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. He's still an asshole though.
Oh, absolutely, he is such a dick. He makes this really ham-fisted pass at her, and yeah, she's like, "No, we're gonna do here." So he walks her downstairs while going over all the rules and everything. Again, setting up what Hannibal is, who this person is, this monster. And then we finally get rid of Chilton. And there's Barney, who's just this breath of fresh air. He's so
Love
kind.
Barney. He
Yes, he's
is.
very kind to her. And, he does some nice stuff later on in the film as well. But then as she walks down the row of the worst of the worst in this asylum, just fuck all the way off, Migs. Just
I hate him. Oh, I hate my trash can. It was
um, yeah, he's. I mean, I get where they're going with all this. We got to set up that these are some truly horrible people. That they're obviously other, psycho killers, just like our good friend Hannibal Lecter is. But also, yeah, he says some nasty shit to her, which I don't particularly feel like repeating.
No.
And we get past, first the smiling, friendly killer, and I think that's friendly inmate. I think is
Mhm.
what he's listed as in the credits, something like that. And then we get the birding guy, and then we get Miggs, who's just a fucking whack job, and we get this nice little transition to Hannibal's cell, and he's just standing there, all all
He,
perfect and upright, and he just says good morning.
I hate it.
And
I hate
I
it.
also
This.
kind of love it just
Oh
because
yeah. Oh no, me too.
because we go through all this terrible shit to get to this nice friendly welcome.
So I have written down all of the times that I had to close my eyes.
Oh no.
Because once again I am a big scaredy cat. And this was one of the times was the walking down the hall and then the pan to Hamill because it's so different and so nice that it's once again so unnerving. Like, oh, I hate it, but I love it, and the filmmakers knew exactly what they were doing with this. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just staring right at the no, okay, yeah, no, sorry, sorry. It's one of my
and
least favorite scenes.
and then you very very quickly notice that it's just all plexiglass with a few air holes because you can't bear to have the danger of him reaching through the bars because you're donezo if that happens. um yeah, yeah.
When
um and then of course he has to ask, what did Miggs say? Just stop bringing up Miggs.
I
We
know,
don't want to talk about Miggs.
I know, I
But
know.
she admits what Miggs had, hissed at her. And, he's like, well, yeah, no. But I can tell that you use particular skin cream and you sometimes wear a particular perfume, but not today. And
Mhm.
yeah, we're really establishing his amazing palette.
Yeah.
Um, and it's
Nice.
just there's so much in this film that will be um, that I'm sure was in the book. I read the book a long time ago. Probably somewhere between 25 and 30 years ago. But there's so much that probably came from Red Dragon, but also sets things up for future properties like the book and film Hannibal. Um, but she points out his drawings, and he gestures to the one that's in Florence, and he's like, okay, that's all stuff that happens in Hannibal later on. Awesome. All these little
Oh,
threads.
we know
Yeah.
this one.
But yeah. What else here? There's a little bit of exposition about Buffalo Bill, who I refer to in my notes ever after as BB. Um,
Yeah,
because I
BB.
just don't like having to type that over and over again.
Oh yeah, no,
Um,
yeah.
and this is the part that I was going to bring up because she does this little faux pas of bringing up the survey that she was sent there to have him fill out, and he just sees that as her being a little rude and just getting right to it and everything. And this is where he starts to dress her down by slowly getting into this West Virginian affect in his speaking, because he's just slowly fucking with her until he's really, really fucking with her. And you can see that she's unsettled by it, but it just slowly creeps up and it's so good. And then he keeps bringing it back throughout the rest of the film to, just give her these little gut punches here and there. Um,
Yeah. So that when he does that in the beginning, because I read trivia, because I love the trivia. Apparently, that was improvised in the beginning, and that is Jodie Foster's like legit reaction. Like she took so much offense to it. Like that's just her legitimate horrified reaction to this, and it's like, oh, that's another level. Like we're we're getting into it. This is oh boy, here we go.
yeah,
15
that's
minutes in.
that's something that I've never really dug into quite so deeply. Just what the filming of this movie was like. I've never watched any making of or anything.
I need
Um,
to.
there's got to be some stuff out there, but I'm very curious to see what this set was like.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, yeah.
mm, just the kinds of characters that people had to put on, and just having to be around that, and then yeah, how that bled into their interactions with each other when the cameras are off. I would love to
Mhm.
know.
Yes.
But yeah, he basically sends her packing at this point, and as she's leaving, Miggs gives her a parting gift, which is horrific, and yeah, it's gross. It's so gross.
I always forget about that part, and I'm just like, ah, that's right. Freaking
Yeah,
Migs.
yeah, that's graphic. But Lecter, seeing this discourtesy on display, calls her back, and he gives her an errand of his own to seek out seek out Miss Moffat, to look inside herself and seek out Miss Moffat. And
Yes.
it's fairly cryptic. It's like, I don't know what the fuck is happening here,
Mhm.
but screams for her to take off before Miggs can do it again. Um, and she does, and this is where we get her first flashback to her childhood, because he did do a little bit of digging with her. Yeah, I kind of skipped over a lot of their dialogue, and that's okay. We don't have to rehash absolutely everything. But she brings up that he was a town sheriff, and ultimately, or no, that may come up later, what happened to him. But yeah, she just has the little flashback of her meeting her dad when he comes home from work, and she's just losing her shit outside of her car because of the horrible experience, and the dredging up of these memories. And I am pretty sure that we cut right to her on a firing range from this. Yeah,
I think so.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, she's perking herself back up.
Yeah, you know. let out some energy.
Yeah, and she does. There's an awesome training montage. Some of it
Yes.
she's doing really great. Other times, maybe not so much. She's got the little practice of breaching a room where she doesn't check the corner, and she gets her head blown off for it. Um, yeah, and then we move on to microfilm. She's in the library researching Dr. Lecter. Um, Microfilm, I am unfortunately old enough to remember actually having to use this in a library before. Before this film, did you even know what this was? I gotta ask. I really do.
So I knew of it.
Okay.
I never used it.
Thank God, because it's horrible. Oh, it's
Yeah,
so
it doesn't look
horrible.
fun.
You can only get like the barest knowledge of what is in like a particular newspaper or a magazine or whatever it was that was put onto microfilm. And then you basically have to scan the whole thing like you're reading it to find what you're looking
Oh
for.
god. Oh no.
It's a horrible way to do research.
Yeah,
Um,
doesn't sound great.
Yeah, I'm sure it's slightly better than trying to dig through old newspapers, but because they probably degrade. But yeah, yeah, not great, and it kind of shows the age of this film a little bit too. But yeah, microfilm. Yeah,
Oh, it sounds like a blast.
it's so not. It's so not. I just seriously remember in high school needing to go like 30, 40 miles to a local university to do research for a paper and having to dig into uh, old microfilm of old newspapers and shit. It was just one of the worst experiences ever. And thank God by the end of high school, there was like fledgling internet access. So, hooray.
Yay,
You live in a
technology.
magical time, Makenna.
I can certainly tell. Oh yeah. Very
Oh,
happy.
yes. It turns out Hannibal did something nice for Clarice. She gets a phone call from Jack Crawford that Miggs is dead. And basically, Hannibal talked him into offing himself. He essentially swallowed his own tongue and died. Okay, thanks for the gift. I didn't exactly want that, but and she in the same phone call lets Crawford know that this little clue that he gave her. She thinks she has a good idea what it is. She's gonna go check it out. And this is where we go to your self storage. You get this old Russian dude who's got like a driver and a Rolls Royce and shit. Um, and it's this storage barn that was rented for 10 years in advance, all paid in cash for this Miss Moffat. And they can't really get the door open. She grabs a jack, uh, just barely able to get it up enough that she can squeeze through. I really appreciate the exchange about how, okay, this is the card to the Baltimore field office. They know that I'm with you, as in, please don't try anything, dude. But I know you're probably not gonna. But also, just know that they
Just
know that you're here. So yeah, because it's a little creepy. Um, but she makes her way in, and there's just tons of shit in this storage
Mhm.
barn, just everywhere. There is so much stuff. It's I don't know if this is a lot of stuff from Lecter's old office or home or what, but yeah, she finds an old car draped with a giant American flag and makes her way inside. And well, Hannibal, you and I both know he's all about a good tableau. He's got to, set that scene. He's got to dress up that kill. He's got to make that living painting, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, she finds a headless mannequin and a great big bell jar with a severed head.
Yep,
Awesome.
this is another part that I had to close my eyes for. I
Okay.
I knew it was coming up because I remember this vividly from the book, and I was like, I think this is the part with the head in the jar. But I couldn't remember it from the first time I watched the movie. So I was like half watching it like this, waiting for it. And then I was like, and there's the jar, and I'm going to close my eyes until the scene changes. It was yeah, very creepy. They did that very good.
It's and there's definitely some yeah, just yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a head in a jar. So she goes back to the asylum, and I think this has all happened in the span of a day at this point too.
I think so.
Man, can you imagine going through all those like training classes and everything after going to that asylum for the first time and having that experience?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I'd need a good day off.
I'd have like an existential crisis in the middle of that would like completely knock me out for like like you said, like a day. Like good on.
I'm gonna go sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Like don't talk to me for a little bit. Like I'm out, man.
Yep. And it's pouring rain by the time she makes it to the asylum, and Barney greets her at the door. She heads downstairs, and it's all shadows in Hannibal's cell. And you get this TV on the cart like we used to have in grade school, and it's got some kind of preacher program on it, but the sound's off, and Clarice is, basically talking at Hannibal, and she can't really see him. She's looking around, and all of a sudden the food tray comes slamming out. It's big and loud and booming, but it's kindness in the form of a towel. It's a very decent thing that he does for her here because her hair is soaked and everything. So this is where he brings up the story of Benjamin Raspail, the head that she found, who was a patient of Dr. Lecter's, and she kind of assumes, okay, well, he had makeup on him, and there was the mannequin with the dress was transvestite, she says, and he's like, no, garden variety manic depressive, he's kind of a tedious patient, but yeah. This is where they start bringing up offers. Not quite the quid pro quo that's to come, but he basically would like to get out of there. He knows that he's going to be tortured by Dr. Chilton after she leaves. Going to crank the sound on the church stuff, and just to torment him, and yeah. Not great. I forget what else exactly happens in this conversation. I don't know if they bring up Raspail's significant other at the time, or if that comes later. But
they all run together. All of the visits at some point.
Yeah.
They all run like 3 or 4.
Yeah. They spend remarkably little time together in this film for something that we remember so strongly from it. But so basically he won't tell her much more, and he's like, all good things to those who wait, and but better hurry because he's probably out there searching for his next special girl. And we cut to Tom Petty. And we get this intro to Catherine Martin, and Ted Levine as Buffalo Bill, and yep. I knew it because if I'm not mistaken, you're a massive Monk fan.
I am. I wrote Stottlemyre with 3 exclamation points next to it. Because when I watched this, I watched Silence of the Lambs, and then I watched Monk a few months later for the first time. And I was like, Stottlemyre looks familiar. I wonder what else he's been in that I've seen. And
sounds a little familiar too, yeah?
Yeah, just a very distinct voice. I forgot how deep his voice was until this movie. And I was like, oh yeah, no, that's right, he's in Silence of the Lambs. And like my brain refused to make the connection because I loved Stottlemyre so much in Monk, and then I was like, oh, but he's the serial killer in Silence of the Lambs. Why? So this was like the first time since seeing Monk that I watched obviously the full movie, but like the scene specifically with Ted Levine, I was like, oh, he's so good in this though.
He doesn't have a super big role, but he's also really good in Heat. He's one of the
Ooh.
cops on Pacino's team.
I will check that out then.
It's like a 3-hour heist movie, but
I'm
it's
in.
so good.
That sounds amazing. Yes.
First on-screen pairing of Pacino and De Niro. It's worth it
shit,
just for
yeah.
that scene.
Oh my god, I was already sold. Now I'm like, let me watch this later tonight.
It's really good. I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about it when you're all done. So yes, Ted Levine with his night vision glasses, Billy, Buffalo Bill, BB, and he's just waiting and watching. He's probably been staking this girl out for quite some time, so he knows what time she comes home, all that fun stuff. He's got his MO down for sure. And this abduction scene. I mean, girl, just keep on walking. Come on. It's it's dark. You're alone, and you see this dude struggling with a couch to get it into a panel van.
So many red flags.
Yeah, and I also understand that, we're not 20 something in 1990. This is 30 years later, informed by so much of what has happened in the world and so much media and our obsession with serial killer films and other properties. So I think we're all just a little bit more risk averse as far as this stuff is concerned. But yeah, she's just too nice for her own good. So yeah, he convinces her to help him pick up the couch because he's got a fake cast on his arm, and he gets her to carry it first into the vehicle because he says he wants to push it all the way forward, and then climbs in and beats the crap out of her. Discovers yes, she's exactly what he's been looking for.
Of course she is. Of course she is.
Yeah, and he fucks off. So with the poor cat. Yeah.
That's what I was like,
I love how they cut back to the cat watching everything. We had a witness, right? It was the cat.
It's always the cat. Oh.
Yup.
The cat's okay.
Yeah. I figure the cat probably is okay. They can do pretty well on their own for quite some time, but we cut to more training, and I love how everybody always interrupts a good training montage with Clarice, and everybody always has to stare at her whenever this happens. And we even get some more like POV stuff here again. But yeah, it's like, saddle up, you're going to West Virginia. Oh, yay. It's where I always wanted to go.
Yeah. The best state.
Yeah.
Sorry, West Virginia.
Yeah, sorry. No, you probably get shit on enough. But yeah, Crawford and Starling, as they're in the car going to check out this nude body that is very likely a Buffalo Bill victim, they kind of ponder the killer's profile, and Starling kind of questions Jack's methods as far as sending her into the asylum without knowing what was going on. She's a little miffed by it, but he tells her, if I had told you, he would have seen right through you, and we wouldn't have even gotten this far with things. So she kind of lets that go for now. But they arrive at the funeral home, and Jack takes the sheriff aside and, basically insinuates, hey, let's go talk over here because woman and sex crime stuff, and we can't do that. And you're left with all these cops just staring at her. And this is
Okay.
where we go on to flashback number 2, where she's remembering the funeral home, with the death of her father. And honestly, I'm glad we don't get a third flashback.
Yeah, me too. Me
it,
too.
I don't know that they really necessarily add too much to this film.
Mm-mm. No.
It's one of the few critiques I guess I have. I don't know. I, I I think she basically spells things out pretty damn well as far
That's
as
what I
what
was thinking.
happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking as well. Like once like the quid pro quo comes in or whatever, like the flashbacks don't give anything. Like it's fine. I would be able to follow the movie without them, but I
Yeah.
get emotions. I don't know.
Eh,
Little.
yeah.
Oh.
But she's broken out of this reverie when they come and get her, and they go and just take a look at the body, and all the fucking cops in the whole goddamn county are there still.
Yeah.
And Clarice basically shoos them out so
Hell
that they can get to work. And I like that.
yeah. Yes, that was
That
amazing.
works. She gets her moment there for sure. And they pass around the shit that you smear under your nose so you can tolerate the stench, and I can never remember what that's called. I don't know if it's camphor or something like that.
Sounds right. Yeah.
I've watched plenty of CSI and shit like that. I should probably know, but regardless, she does this little pause after they open up the body bag, and it's almost like she has to will herself to turn around and look at all of this. Meanwhile, everybody else seems to be pretty cool with it, but it's gross. It's a body that's been in the water for quite some time, and yeah. They start taking photos, and she starts basically doing the rundown of what they're observing into one of those cool little voice activated tape recorder type deals. And as they're taking the photos, she notices, oh, there's something in her mouth. And the organist from the funeral home is like, oh, sometimes there's like leaves and shit that when a body's been in the water. But oh no, they find something else. And Crawford thinks maybe a seed pod. And nope, the organist is like, nope, that's a bug cocoon. And they start looking at the spots where her skin's been removed, because if we haven't mentioned, this particular serial killer keeps trophies in the form of skins from his, which is kind of gross. But like they say about turkey, skin's the best part. Yeah. It's disgusting. But Starling kind of bags up the evidence there, and they take off. And apparently Alexa would like to chime in about that.
Very, very opinionated about this.
Oh yes, yes. Keep your opinions to yourself over there. But yes, they leave, and in the car ride back to the plane, Starling gives Crawford some shit about what happened with the sheriff, and rightfully so. And he kind of admits, okay, I could probably have handled that a little differently, which I think was pretty big of him. But especially for somebody who's probably like fairly high up, and she's just a trainee who's there is a major power dynamic here that so they get back to town, and we get what I think is pretty clearly the inspiration for the lone gunman on the X-Files. I don't know if you get that reference, but you get these. Nope. Okay, guess not. But you get these two nerdy guys at this museum that are playing with their bugs, and on the X-Files, you had these three conspiracy theorists who would sometimes help out Mulder and Scully, and they seem like kind of carbon copies of these characters, um, in some ways. Yeah, yeah, but yeah, Dr. Pilcher, he makes this kind of dorky, adorable pass at Starling, which she seems like totally all about, and it's the cutest damn thing
I know.
ever. I really like that.
Yes. I'll have more to say about that at the end because it's not in the movie, but it's at the end of the book.
Oh
But
God, I don't even remember.
okay.
It's been so long. I can't wait to hear. So the other dude, who's not even a real PhD, he opens up the cocoon, and we are introduced to the Death's Head moth, which is just the coolest fucking name.
Oh my god, yeah.
I feel
If
like
I was
most
the
people.
bug, I'd want that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, because it's like the most metal name that you could ever give a moth.
Right?
Not exactly, a creature that strikes fear and terror into people. It's a
Absolutely.
moth.
Yeah,
But
exactly. That's why you need the name.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, um, and we cut from here to BB's lair. Um,
I'll never
where
get over
he's
BB.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love it.
it works. Um, and he's got the moths, fluttering around here because he likes to raise them in addition to his other hobbies, I guess. Um, there's a couple of aquariums, and I've tried looking multiple times, but I can't really tell what's in them. Um,
No idea.
I don't know, no idea whatsoever. They don't seem particularly clean. Don't know. But yeah, we get this kind of introduction of his lair and the dry well with Catherine down at the bottom. Um, and then I don't think is this the no, the lotion part comes later, so never mind. Um, we're back in Baltimore at the asylum, and this is where Clarice is offering the transfer to a different facility where he'll actually have a window. And 1 week a year, he gets to go to Anthrax Island. Um, she's really selling it too, and
She got the
yeah.
map and everything.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You'll get to swim in the ocean under SWAT team surveillance. Um, yeah. Um, and so yeah, she's got her offer. Well, here's where we need to do a little quid pro quo here. You tell me things, and I tell you things, and that's how our relationship's going to go from here. So this is where we get the full blown story of her father's death, how he was the town marshal and he surprised some people robbing a drugstore and they gunned him down. How he survived for days afterwards and finally died. And she was then an orphan because her mom had died when she was young. She went to go live with some fairly distant relatives on a ranch in, yeah, I think it was Montana. Um, Ultimately he kind of needles her a little bit. Oh, did the rancher do horrible things to you? Is that why you're messed up? And she's like, no, no, they're very very decent people. And things kind of get cut short there. You can tell that he's growing fairly fond of her actually.
Hmm.
um I think she's gaining some amount of respect if she didn't already have it of him, as much as she's trying to put one over on him here with this little offer, trying to get more information. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think of this interaction?
Okay. So I think well she had to shoot her shot. She had to do something because they were so close, yet they were still missing that puzzle piece to get them to Buffalo Bill. So I can respect her being like, here's this fake offer, but it's quote unquote fake, but actually fake. Um, and like I am shocked that Hannibal doesn't call her out right away for it being a bullshit offer, because I feel like that is something that he would be able to sniff out immediately. Um, but you know what? Good. She shot her shot. She got some information. So, win.
Yep. Yep. And we start talking about the moth, why.
Oh yes.
And, it signifies transition or change. Um, and here's, I think, where people, find the film not exactly aging well necessarily, because it kind of plays on the fear of trans folk that
Oh.
people drum up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I, I, I mean, it's kind of made abundantly clear that, you know, that's not exactly what's happening here. He's not, trying to actually transition in that way. And yet it can be, yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, that could be better. I think
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see what the Hannibal series would have been had they had the rights to Silence of the Lambs, because I think they could have handled this type of thing in a much more 2010s, if
Mm-hmm.
not, now type of way. Um,
So allegedly,
oh,
as
oh,
of 2019, Mads Mikkelsen said in an interview that the guy, his name is escaping me, who adapted it for a television series, was trying to get the rights to Silence of the Lambs to continue the Hannibal series if they
Brian
were to get
Fuller.
more funding. Yes, him. I can't remember if he said for sure if he got the rights to Silence of the Lambs or not, but he was at least working on it. So if it were to continue, we would be going into that. So there's a
Well, and then there was
possibility.
that CBS show about Clarice Starling.
There
So that,
was?
yeah, I don't think a
Oh.
lot of people really watched it because I don't think it's on anymore. So I
Oh,
think that basically killed that eventuality.
damn it.
Um, I
Oh,
know.
man. Come on. Now that you say that, though, I think I vaguely remember, like, trailers for that airing before I started reading. Oh, wow. Wow, that just unlocked a memory of, like, a summer. Oh,
That's like
wow.
maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. I remember because it was CBS, which is what Jeopardy airs on back home, and I remember seeing those commercials during the commercial breaks.
Oh, and it felt like such a CBS show. It
Yes.
Not in a good way.
Wow.
I
I
think had I given it a shot, maybe it was actually decent. I don't know. I just had such a bitter taste in my mouth after the way Hannibal was handled,
right.
by NBC, by Universal. Um, I, I still think we got an amazing 3 years of television there,
Oh, 100%.
but yeah, just sad. I was pretty heartbroken at the end of that too. But
Oh. Wow. Yeah, I just now I'm looking at the Wikipedia.
it puts the lotion in the basket.
Oh
Okay,
no.
so we are finally at this scene, this iconic scene, where he does everything. Buffalo Bill does absolutely everything that he can to dehumanize Catherine. You know, speaking to her in the third person, calling her it, um, basically doing everything he can to distance himself from her as an actual human, because he's going to do unspeakable shit to her. Um, when she's not exactly complying, when she's just continuing to beg, he loses his cool, and you can absolutely tell when he breaks, not only because he starts screaming at her, but also because he's addressing her directly. Um, it's pretty intense. And then as the light on the bucket goes up and she finds those missing fingernails from Miss West Virginia, um, which is pretty horrific, she starts screaming like crazy, and he just reciprocates by mocking the scream and just, oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. Ted Levine, too good.
Yep. Yep. It might make some people worry just a little bit about him. I don't know.
Yeah, just a bit. Well, yeah, apparently, like, after this, he found it a little difficult to find work just because everyone associated
Yeah.
with him with this. And it's like, well, you were good. You were certainly very good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's certainly happened to a good number of actors. You get typecast in, such iconic roles or have, things happen on a set that, affect you in such a profound way that, yeah, you're kind of off the grid for a little bit. Um, yeah, I mean, he's always been more of a character actor as it is. He's not exactly been, a real lead or anything. So, I mean, it's good to know that only a few years later he's, getting work. So that's cool. That's cool. Um, so yes, the lotion is indeed placed in the basket. Um, and we move on to Chilton confronting Hannibal about the offer. How, he actually got in touch with Catherine's mother, the senator from Tennessee, found out that it is indeed bullshit, but he's made his own offer with her and how he's gonna fucking come through or else. Meanwhile, Hannibal, just he does not give two shits because he sees his out.
Mm-hmm.
The pen. The pen. I don't know how he ever gets to it. It's
I even wrote I wrote Chilton is a freaking idiot. Like
yep.
he for the one thing, and I won't talk about it right now because my favorite sequence of events will happen in a bit, and it started with the pen. It's the freaking pen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yes. And it's like Hannibal only has eyes for this pen. It's great. We cut right to Jack and Starling having been found out in this phone call from an FBI director who is played by Roger Corman,
Oh.
the famous B movie director from basically the 1950s onward. He did just prolific director of B films. And we get other B movie directors in here before too long. I can't wait to bring it up because it's one of my favorites. But so yes, Jack Crawford is filled in about what happened, how the senator's pissed. He tells this director, "Yeah, I rolled the dice." Blah blah blah. I love how chill he is about getting called on the carpet here, but that seems to be kind of Jack's personality in general. That's okay. And we move to Tennessee, where Lecter's been transported to this airplane hangar. You've got all these armed guards everywhere, and they bring the senator in. In the meantime, Chilton is doing one of these numbers, trying to find his pen.
Ah, shucks. Where could it be?
Yep. And he's definitely one of these guys that doesn't like to touch other people's pens because his reaction when the one officer hands him his own to sign off on the paperwork for the transfer, he doesn't like that. But yes, Lecter he fucks with everybody, and still somewhat assists. Basically just totally unnerving the senator. And she's like, take this thing back to Baltimore. And I love how she calls him this thing. Her reaction's great. I can't think who the actress is, but it's a good performance for such a minor little part. But he starts blurting out all the info about who he thinks Buffalo is. And yeah, and she turns back around and, basically, one more thing, Senator. Love your suit.
Oh, I rewatched that multiple times because I love the facial react. How he. Oh, I love. So good. It's so good. Oh,
Yeah.
that one. He has to have the last word. Love the
Yep.
suit.
Yes. He gives Bill's name is Lewis Friend. Um. Yeah. Yeah. How ultimately he was a significant other of his patient Benjamin Raspail. How Benjamin was unnerved by him because apparently Lewis had murdered someone and done things with the skin. He says. Yeah, that's creepy. It's just I'm glad you didn't go into detail there, but we get it.
Pick up what you're putting down.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, we cut to I don't know what kind of building this is. If it is an actual building in Memphis, but it's where Lecter is being held, and it's the most elaborate cage. It, I guess there were no facilities uh, to actually keep him. It's almost like something in a museum. I don't know, but we get Clarice basically ducking Chilton and Krendler from the Justice Department. A character that oh god, it's he just passed away recently. Shit from Goodfellas. Ray
Oh.
Liotta plays him in
Yeah.
Hannibal.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, but she's kind of ducking by these guys to sneak her way in to visit Lecter one last time here. And we get the absolutely iconic "Good evening, Clarice."
Mm. Yes. So
She
there's
brought him.
so a couple things in this scene that are just so iconic.
Yeah.
That was the first one. That was the first one.
Yep. Yep. She brings him his drawings as a peace offering. He's mad as hell about the fake offer. Um, but he's also fairly impressed that she did it.
Mm-hmm.
You get that in that West Virginia drawl. That was good. I love it. And the line about people will say we're in love just because she keeps coming to see him over and over again. Um, and he's also a little bit more antagonistic in this conversation. I think he's salty from being fucked with, but yeah, he pushes her buttons just as much as he possibly can. And Clarice is desperate. She feels like they're absolutely running out of time with Catherine. Like she was already working through the anagram of Lewis Friend. That it was an anagram for iron sulfide, which of course is fool's gold. In that this is not the name of this person. You're just what are you pulling here? We gotta do what we can to find this girl. And yeah, he still just won't give up the name. Um Instead, he, kind of presses her. Um, I, I don't know that I've ever been in a class that actually does the Socratic method, but it feels like that, where he's just, forcing her to, find her way through to ultimately the answer here. And they come to the realization that, what this person does is he covets. That is his primary, drive. This is what he does. It's not that he kills people. No, that's incidental. Um, and in helping her to this realization, he demands that she finishes her story about her father and what happened on the ranch in Montana. Um, and we get this horrible story about her waking up in the night to hearing, screaming, screaming, some kind of screaming like a child's voice, she says. and they're slaughtering the spring lambs, and she can't take it, and she tries to free them, and they just stand there just staring back at her. She grabs one and runs off. She doesn't make it very far though, because she's like 10 years old trying to carry this lamb. The local sheriff picks her up, and that's it with her cousins. She's sent off to an orphanage. It's kind of awful. And he just throws back right at her. So you figure if you are able to save Catherine, that you'll be able to, stop the recurring nightmare and this thing that's hung over you all your life of these screaming lips. And they're cut off at this moment. But before we get there, any thoughts on this story and their interaction so far? I feel like there's something there, Makenna. Come on.
I mean, this is the title of the movie of the book. Yeah. Like this is we got our origin story. Although I will say I do love when movies say the title of the movie, because I feel like that one like Leonardo DiCaprio meme when he's like pointing at the TV when it happens, but like you know, it's fine. They talk about the screaming of the lambs, but not the silence of them. But no, I love like you get this backstory in Clarice, like which like we knew a good chunk, but now it's like, oh, we knew her upbringing and like what went down and why her childhood was so pertinent and whatnot. And then like, I mean, this is the last time that, well, spoilers, that Clarice and Hannibal are face to face.
For a while, at least.
Oh yeah. For a while, for a bit.
For the film, for sure.
Yeah, for the film. So it's also just like that final thing.
Yeah.
So good.
It's basically her sanity hinges on being able to solve this crime.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And yes, they are interrupted. We get the lovely Dr. Chilton, I presume. And he's like, okay, it's time to go. Let's go. Okay, so the dude walking behind Chilton with the beard and the walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
That is George Romero, the director of Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead, The Crazies. Yeah, prolific horror director George Romero.
Wow. Ooh, I love cameos.
Yeah, we get two old directors in this at least. There may be more. I don't know. But yeah, cameos are cool. So, yes, they drag her out, and he's like, Clarice, the case file. She breaks free and runs back to grab it. And we get the finger push. One of the best shots in this fucking movie. Good. It's so skin-crawling unsettling that this is the only physical contact between these two in the entire film. They've always been separated by bars or plexiglass or whatever. And it's just this little bye-bye.
It's like, it feels like everything's in slow motion in that very moment. Like, all the action, like, you don't hear anything. Oh, there's no action. It's just the finger touch. It's just, so good. So good.
It's... Yes. It's a gift that I will use on the internet over and over and over again in relation to this movie.
Yes.
Because it's so wonderful. And yeah, it does make the skin crawl.
Absolutely.
So yeah, Clarice is thrown on a plane, and she gets back to, she gets back to school. And as she's walking through this airport, she looks so dejected. And just like her world has just come crashing down. But then she remembers, okay, everything that I need to solve this case is in the file. That's what Lecter told me. It's all there. Um, but then we cut back to Tennessee. Yes, we do. Where Lecter has requested a second dinner of lamb chops, extra rare. And you get the cops, kind of joking about it, and uh they're polite enough to him, but they're also, just kind of dicks too. Um but they ask him if he's ready, and he's behind this, little modesty veil thing. I'm sure there's like a little porta john or something there for him. Uh, but he's basically, I'm sure this part of the pen he had concealed like in his mouth or something like that, and he's just kind of working it out. And he palms that, and he's told to go sit on the ground with his hands out behind the bars so that they can cuff him. And they do, and um he immediately starts working on the handcuffs. They don't even leave it to your imagination that that's what he's doing. Um so the cops come in, they go to sit down the food tray. He tells them, stalling a little bit, to mind the drawings on the table. So he sets the food tray down right next to Lecter, gets up, kind of rolls up the drawings, moves them aside, goes to go back down to pick up the tray. Meanwhile, the other dipshit is standing at the door, not really paying attention. You see him just kind of fumbling around with the keys a little bit. And as Sergeant Boyle leans down to pick up the tray, the hand reaches out with the cuff and snaps it around his wrist. And he's like, the look on his face of, oh, fuck. And Lecter just, this maniacal look on his face as he snaps the other end of the cuff around the bar. And, look out, Pembury's loose and all this shit. And kiss, kiss. He's just tearing into the guy's face. And I guess what they did is they had like this big bit of rubber that they both got to bite down on.
Okay.
So that you'd get like the in sync interactions of the heads jostling as he's chewing away. That totally works. It looks
terrifying.
Oh yeah. And then he maces the shit out of this guy, and then beats the crap out of Boyle with his own nightstick, and just the savagery on his face as he's doing this, and just the smile gets wider and wider and wider. And of course, the music swells and everything. Holy crap! We are finally seeing who Lecter is. We are seeing him in his true form here. And then you cut back to the chamber music playing on the tape deck, and Lecter just doing his little conducting as he's enjoying the moment. And then he hears Pembury crawling behind him, and we get the repeat of the line from earlier, "Ready when you are, Sergeant Pembury," as he goes to do his thing. And yeah.
Boy, does
yeah. So, like you said, you saw this for like the first time within the past year or so. Your initial reaction to all of this?
This was so terrifyingly genius. Like obviously, you get this connotation. Obviously, he's a psychiatrist. He's smart. He knows people. Da da da. But like you said, like this is the first time we physically get to see just how much of a genius he is in terms of this, world of murder, I suppose, and like what he would do to escape and how he would execute it. And it's just like, and like this scene and then the next few scenes are probably some of my favorite in the whole movie, because as gory and as visual as it is, shit, it's just so well executed. Like,
It's
he's
such a good
thought of
fake out.
everything. Yes,
It's a wonderful fake out. It's
got everything.
and this is like the thing about this character in the books and all the different properties. It's the kind of shit that would never play out in real life.
Right.
There is no way to have it so perfectly planned out, to be able to construct the tableaus that he does, to just all the consequence of events that have to line up to make all this happen. It's just not possible. But because he is who he is, you are able to suspend that disbelief. You're like, yep, I can see how that could happen.
Yep. Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. We cut to downstairs and they notice that the elevator is going up and they're like, what is this shit? And Sergeant Tate has a mustache. Did you notice how wide this mustache is?
No, but now I need to go back and find it, I feel.
It's like, wow. It's very like thin and it's wow. Okay. So yeah. They notice the elevator going up and then they see it starting to come back down, but then stopping, and they're like, oh, get me a SWAT team with Chris Isaac stat. Cause he's in this movie too. But yeah, they get the SWAT team showing up and they all, start going up the stairs and everything. Well, no, first, before the SWAT team even gets there, the cops all go up to the 5th floor and they burst into the room. And okay, Boyle is strung up with this amazing lighting behind him, and you've got all the shit everywhere, and his intestines are out. And yeah, like you do. And wow, Pembry is alive but wounded, and just unresponsive. And so, well, they hurry up and they get him on a stretcher, and they get in the elevator and they start going down, and they start noticing blood dripping onto Pembry from above. They look up and they see the hatch in the top of the elevator. It's got that little blood kind of pooling at the corner, and they realize, oh crap, Lecter's on top of the elevator. So, they try to be subtle about it with the walkie and everything. So they stop, they get out, the SWAT team's arrived at this point, and they're like, okay, he's on top of the elevator. So they run up there, they pry open the doors, they do the little mirror thing to look over the edge and everything. They see him down. Okay, well, give him one warning. They call out to him, nothing. Like, shoot him in the leg.
Why not?
I don't know that he's necessarily going anywhere. You got him trapped from both sides.
Right.
But
just in case.
I get it. He's very, very dangerous, right? And they also see there's a gun near his hand. So, and I understand. But they do shoot him. Again, nothing happens. So they bring in a very rickety looking stepladder into the elevator, and they go to open up the hatch, and the body flops down, and it's all realized that, that's not Lecter. And you cut to the ambulance screaming down the road, and they're radioing in the, what's going on with the patient. And you see Hannibal rise up, pull off Pembry's face that he has cut from the poor dude's skull, and attack the dude in the back of the ambulance. And you cut to Ardelia running from the phone after being relayed the news. I love how this takes place so long ago that they wouldn't have had phones in their individual dorm
Right.
rooms.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's all about, but that's some bullshit right there. Um, this communal phone that they have to use. Um, I, I get that was definitely a thing, but come on, it's like 1990, right?
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but yeah, she's just charging down that hallway. Holy crap, she can run. But yes, we cut to her and Clarice, talking about it, about how they found the ambulance abandoned. Both the EMTs were dead. How Hannibal killed a tourist and took his clothes and everything, and he could be anywhere because, of course, this is pre 9/11 air travel. Um, Honestly, I was able to walk into an airport the summer before 9/11, go through security, and go to a gate wearing a Leatherman on my belt.
Really? Wow.
So, yeah, air travel was very different. And yeah, he probably could escape as easily as he did. Um,
Wow.
yeah. But yeah, we cut to them, discussing how, oh, he's not coming after me. I don't know how to say it. He would just find that rude. Um, because yeah, he probably would actually. Um, and then they decide, okay, let's go over the file, or even before that, we cut to Bill. He's just working on that woman suit, which we don't know is a woman suit quite yet, but
No.
yeah, he's doing some work, and it's clear that it's with skin. It's just gross. But yes, then back to Clarice and Ardelia. They're going over the case file. They determine that, yeah, Bill, what does he do? He covets. Okay, what do you covet? Probably somebody that he knew, right? Um, so let's kind of work backwards from there. And yeah, basically, let's go to Ohio. Sure, because that's where the first victim was from, Frederica Bimmel. Um, and it's very apparent that Frederica had secrets because, um, oh God, this feels like Twin Peaks now, because this all kind of came out around the same time too. But she goes to visit Frederica's father, who's been through the ringer. Clearly, he is a broken shell of a man. Um, and she goes and pokes around the bedroom, finds the little music box, jewelry box thing. And knowing that most young people are going to stash something inside that thing, kind of pokes around with it and finds some photos of Frederica in various states of undress, clearly taken by somebody that she was hanging out with there. Um, and then she's startled by the cat. Again, it's always the cat.
It's always the cat. Always comes back to the cat.
Yes. It's a different cat, but it's a cat.
It's a
Um,
cat.
and she sees the same diamond shaped patterns on the back of an unfinished dress that as the victim from West Virginia. And boy, she's on the phone with Jack super quick there.
Jeez.
Just sputtering about, all the, things that she's uncovered here, and about how he's making a woman suit. That's what it is. And he can sew, and he's really good at it. And Jack's like, no, wait, we already know who he is. We're going to get him right now. He's just outside of Chicago. We double check some things with a few hospitals, and we absolutely know where he is. And we get that his name is was it Jamie Gum or James Gum, John Gordon, one of these or another. He's got a few aliases, right? And so they matched up some patient records along with shipping manifests from caterpillars for this moth. And so they know, and they're going. And she's like, well, I could be in Chicago in just a few hours. And she's like, no, we need more evidence and everything. You need to keep poking around in Ohio. Okay. I don't know that that's really super necessary, but it helps to set up what's about to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, yes. But yeah, he's going to be on the ground in 45 minutes with hostage rescue team and everything. Um, in the meantime, Catherine is about to take a little hostage of her own. This makes me so happy because she refers to Precious as a little shit, and the dog is a little shit. Let's be fair. It's one of those poofy little lap dogs like a Bichon or something like that. Um, I honestly don't remember what the breed is, but it's so perfect that you have Buffalo Bill with his little Precious. It's
Like the dog does not fit Buffalo Bill at all, which makes it even better. Like this tiny
Mhm.
little cute little dog, and then
Oh
his
yeah.
head looking. Oh.
Yeah, well, it's like the part from before. It puts the lotion in the
Yes.
basket, or else it gets the hose again. And then the dog barks, and he's like, it will get the hose again."
Switch. Oh,
"Yes,
it's
it will,
perfect.
Precious."
Yes, exactly. Precious is
Oh
precious.
God. So yeah. This is kind of like her trying to set up the dog to pull it into the well. Is sort of intercut with Bill, kind of getting himself done up, clearly wearing a wig that's actually the scalp of one of his victims, because you see the jagged flesh.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, I
Ah.
can't.
Yep, and we get goodbye horses and a tuck dance,
Yes, we
which
do.
is yeah, that's sure that is what it is. He's sort of envisioning what he's trying to do, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and he's not exactly going to be a woman, but he's going to make himself a woman, I guess.
Yes.
I don't know. Um, sure, dude. But then we cut back to the FBI landing, and they like have that like Simpsons esque flowers by Irene truck, FBI. Um, and, and they're all getting ready to go. And we cut to Clarice interviewing one of Frederica's friends. Um, and she doesn't know of any, Jamie Gum or anybody like that. Um, if there was a guy, she would have known it. I don't know about that because there were some photos that say otherwise. Um, just saying. Um, but how they used to do alterations, because they were both into, sewing and everything, how they used to do alterations for this Mrs. Lippman, right? Well, Clarice gets the address out of her and she decides, okay, well, I've got another lead to run down. Let's go do this. Um, and here's where we start getting the two planes of action fake out.
I love this so much. This is probably my second favorite like execution of scenes because it's so perfect. Just the sound design, like the sounds all would match up and the actions all. Sorry, go on.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
love it. It's edited so
Oh, it
well.
works. It
Makes me
works.
so happy.
Um, so we got the feds gathering outside the house near Chicago, preparing for a breach, while Buffalo Bill is playing with his moths, and he gets a nasty little surprise because Catherine has snagged Precious. "Down here, you sack of shit," she says. I love it. I love that line delivery. And she threatens to kill the dog if he doesn't lower a phone. Bill loses his shit at this point. And this is, where he's kind of tearing through the basement. He goes and he finds his revolver there. He's like losing his mind. What am I going to do? Because I think he very clearly does not want his dog to be killed, but also just the fact that this thing, this object, has put one over on him.
Hmm.
It's so insulting to him. Um, yeah. Also, what's up with all the Nazi and white supremacist paraphernalia all throughout this basement?
Oh, why not another hobby and interest?
I guess. I mean, what I've always wanted to know, was this his stuff or was it Mrs. Lippman's?
Oh shit, I didn't think about that. I would be so
And
interested
I
to
have
know
other
about
questions
this.
about her later, but yeah, because some of the stuff looks like, maybe from around World War II when you had like, Nazi sympathizers in the US
Mhm.
wanting us to stay out of the war. And, it just, oh, it's so creepy. But yeah, like you said, it's good for him to have lots of hobbies, diverse hobbies.
Yeah, of course, keeps him busy.
Oh,
Out
Jesus.
of trouble.
Sure. We'll call. But yes, in the middle of him racing around trying to figure things out, the fucking doorbell rings, and
Yeah, the
we
freaking
we
like
get the
alarm
cop.
system goes off. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, he's got to have something good and loud to let him know something's happening because it's the basement and it's kind of soundproofed and everything.
Oh, I had
Um,
forgot about that part.
yeah.
Yeah,
I,
that's
I, I do like that, we get the cop or the FBI agent or whatever with the flower box pressing the doorbell and cutting back to the doorbell ringing
so
in
so
Bill's
good.
lair. And, they kind of cut back and forth with this. And uh, we get BB walking upstairs and it's like, okay, I'm coming. As he's like
So
trying to
good.
tuck his shirt into his pants and stuff because, you know, he was busy in his robe earlier. Um, but he opens the door and it's Clarice.
Oh, what a surprise.
And yes, surprise. Um, and the FBI ends up raiding this empty house, and there's nobody here, Jack. And Jack Crawford is Clarice, realizing that likely she's walking into something that she may not be prepared for. Um, and we cut back to Belvedere, Ohio, where she asks the man his name, and it's Jack Gordon, a continuation of the JG string of aliases, which makes sense, right? That's how you try to keep that shit straight, I guess. Um, and we get the famous line of when asking about Frederica Bimmel. And him trying to play it off like he doesn't know her and like, oh, where is she a great big fat person? Subtle, man.
Yeah.
Um,
Woof.
yeah, yeah. Well, he invites her in because he Lippmans don't live there anymore, but maybe he has like a business card or something for Mrs. Lippman's son or whatever. And I think at this point that Clarice is kind of mulling over his name and the fact that there's somebody else here at this point um, as she starts walking in. And then she starts noticing a lot of stuff. She notices big thing of plastic wrap, whole lot of thread, general disheveled nature of everything as they talk. And he's like taking a really long time tearing through these business cards as they talk about the case and everything, how the cops are just kind of useless down there in Ohio. Um, and then she sees that moth and she pops off the button on her holster. Yep. And um, um, she's suspicious. She sees the moth. She puts two and two together at that point. And then he sees the realization in her face, and he's got to cover his mouth with his hand in the business card because he's starting to laugh. um it's it's funny to him that
Right.
this thing that's in front of him, thinks that it's got something on him. He is I don't even know exactly how to phrase it, just that he is so confident in his power and what he has become and what he is becoming that just this seems like the most trivial. Yeah. um at which point, she pulls out her gun and tells him to freeze and, turn around, boozing, all that shit. And he manages to slip away around the corner, grab his gun, and run down to the basement. Um, so, what's your take on this interaction between them and when she really realizes? Is it before the moth? It's very clear, at least by the moth, but
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I remember from the book specifically, because obviously you get a lot more inner dialogue with that. Like
okay.
she's piecing it together, and then yeah, the moth comes and she's like, "Oh shit, it's about to go down. Like this is who I'm for, and I'm alone, and let's see what's gonna happen because she doesn't have time to call in backup." So yeah, it's I yeah, her thought process is just I love it. It's this is all coming together in this climax of the movie, and it's going
That's good.
uphill on this roller coaster. I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, so she chases him down to the basement
Yes.
and she bursts through a door and we see the half completed woman suit for the first time. And yeah, that's the thing.
Yep.
Um, and then she finds Catherine in the well, and Catherine's having an absolute freak out
Mhm.
because she just wants to be taken out of there. It's totally get it. Also, totally get Claria's telling her she's just got to shut up and keep that dog quiet because of the situation that they're in. Um, Starling, bluffs a little bit, screaming out that the other officers will be there any minute now. Um, sure. Um, but she continues to clear the basement and finds what is probably a decomposing Mrs. Lippman right before the lights go out.
It looks like bad chili. It's just it's so
Oh
gross.
God. Oh
I'm so
yeah.
sorry. I just heard
That
chili.
yeah.
It's awful.
It's
Couldn't
I'm
imagine the
pretty sure
smell.
that's Mrs. Lippman.
Yeah. Yep.
I have no reason to doubt otherwise, because I think he clearly dumped all of his other victims in rivers. Um, yeah, so that's I guess why I really want to know how much of. I mean, did he just kill her and settle into this house? Did he actually purchase it? I don't know for sure
Mhm.
what's what. If he had bought the house, was there any reason for him to, kill her and keep her in a bathtub there? Because she probably would have been gone. Um, I think that he has killed her to use this property as his lair
Mhm.
while he keeps the other home in the Chicago area just as a way of, like an extra layer of security to keep himself off people's
Mhm.
radar.
Yeah. Like I remember from the book cuz like during that interview that Clarice does right before this, like they said how like there was a guy who worked with Mrs. Lippman and it was James Gump. But I think it was another JG name, of course. Um and like that's how they knew this like Frederica and the other and Jamie worked together. And then like that's how they knew each other and then of course that's how he knew Mrs. Lippman. But I'm pretty sure like what you said, like you just killed her and used it as a lair. Just
Yeah, because it was the
yeah.
perfect place to do what he wanted to
Yeah.
do.
Mhm.
You had this basement that is very clearly well removed from the rest of the house, and it's not like there's other houses that are right up against it. I think there was like a trailer across the train tracks, and that's about
Mhm.
it. Um, so yeah, it was all just too convenient, and probably because he was doing work for her there, just this was the perfect moment. So these lights go out, and then we just get
Mm.
the sound of the night vision goggles turning on, and this is pre Sam Fisher. So we don't have those associations when seeing this movie back in the early 90s. Um, but yeah, Clarice stumbling around in the dark,
Mhm.
absolutely terrified.
Yeah, and you
Oh,
know how close he is as well because you're seeing it from his
mhm.
perspective. Like he's right
Oh
there,
yeah,
and like a few
he
times
has.
he goes to touch her. Oh,
Yeah,
hate
oh,
it.
I love that. He's like
Yeah.
second guesses himself from brushing her hair
Mhm.
and then reaching up to her face, and he has such control.
Mhm.
But yeah. Uh so he does his little reach out, and then he's like, okay, enough of this. And he goes to, cock the hammer on this hand cannon. And that's the sound that clues her in that she's immediately behind. And she just unloads on him.
Mhm.
And how she's able to get the drop on him and is just so much quicker when basically all he had to do was pull the trigger at that moment.
Right.
And he does get off a shot. She's got, basically a burn from the muzzle flash on her face, I think. Um, but yeah, she airs him out and she shatters a window in the meantime, letting some light on the subject, which is just kind of perfect because, they both drop to the ground. He's drowning in his own blood. And, she's catching her breath and then sees all the news clippings about Buffalo Bill on the wall because, of course, he's following his own story.
Got to.
And also, yet another thing that's a reminder of butterflies and moths. There's the little spinny thingy. Um, yeah, yeah. But yes, she has won the day. Uh, and I think it's almost comical that as Catherine Martin is escorted outside, she's cradling this dog and won't let it go.
Right.
This dog that was kind of her nemesis. Uh,
Oh.
Maybe she feels bad that she broke its leg. I don't
Oh.
know.
Poor precious. Poor
Yes,
precious.
poor. Played by Darla.
Oh,
That's
that's
the
so
dog's
cute.
name in the credits. Darla.
Oh, good for Darla.
Yeah, yeah,
Such a
probably
good
first and
actor.
only role.
Oh,
Um,
when you have that high of a role, where else can you go?
I guess, yeah, yeah. And we get Crawford shielding Starling from the press as he, guides her out. He's, concerned about, what happened to her face, but she kind of shrugs it off. And we cut right to her graduation from there. And she's walking across the stage, the flashbulbs go off and all that. And Ardelia gives her big thumbs up from the audience. And we see Crawford in the back, and he just kind of dips after she's done accepting her diploma. Um, and we're right to the reception from here. And that's where I think you have something you'd like to bring up.
Woo! So the doctors are back, baby. Well, the maybe not PhD and the doctor. So at the end of the book, uh, Starling and the doctor, they get together, and then um, the non PhD guy gets together with her roommate, and they go on a cute little double date up to a cabin, and that's how Silence of the Lamb the book ends. It's just them having a nice little vacation
I
in
don't
a cabin.
remember a bit of that. Like I said, it's been a long time since I read that book, but wow, that's kind of funny. Um, So
That's why they're
they,
randomly there. They're just hanging out, you know.
yeah, and it feels so forced. The non PhD posing for his photo with Ardelia, and she doesn't look as creeped out as she probably should.
Right, yeah.
Uh, so yeah, like maybe that was a scene that was cut. I don't know how much was left on the floor with this movie, but it seems pretty economical. You know, it's not a long movie. It's under 2 hours.
Right.
Um, but yes, Ardelia pops up into this little exchange to let Clarice know that she has a phone call, and they call each other special agent because
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
they're
Yay.
officially FBI now. Um, and before she can get to the phone, Crawford kind of steals her away just so that he can offer his congratulations. And she thanks him, and he tells her that her father would have been proud, and she shakes his hand. And it's a very nice moment between the two. Um, I really don't think there's all the skeevy insinuation that Lecter put out there. He is basically just fucking with her. But you know, I think they have such a genuine respect for each other, and it comes through especially in this scene.
Right.
And he tells her not to forget about her phone call.
Ooh.
And luckily, Clarice, have the lambs stopped screaming?
Ho ho.
Oh, Dr. Lecter? Yeah, don't bother with the trace. I won't be on long enough. It's just, I love all the dialogue here. I have no plans to call on you, Clarice. The world's more interesting with you in it.
Aw.
So you take care now to extend to me the same courtesy. I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. And then the way he says, bye,
Ah,
before
so
hanging
good.
up the phone. And she's just left repeating, Dr. Lecter, Dr. Lecter, Dr. Lecter.
Oh my god.
And we cut to Bimini, where Chilton's getting off this plane and he's all nervous about security at the hotel and everything. And Lecter's got that funky wig on and the cool hat and the shades.
No one will
And
suspect a thing.
nope. And he just stalks off after Chilton into the credits. And I love that they just let the scene play out with the entirety of the credits running.
So good. It's like the end of Weekend at Bernie's, but no, it's the end of the Silence of the Lambs. Like it's like seems like such like a vacation movie with just the end credits, but no, it's much more sinister than like. Oh,
Yeah.
so oh my god, what a movie!
Yeah, that's Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs.
Okay.
Ah.
I know you've got stuff in your notes there. Come on now.
Of course I've got stuff in my notes. So of course, me with any movie adaptation, I do have some gripes that were things from the book that weren't in the movie. Although I will say I did not get as mad with this adaptation as I have gotten with other adaptations like The Shining. I have words about The Shining, but I think one of the bigger things was the amount of Jack Crawford. Obviously, Jack Crawford pretty prominent in the movie still, with Clarice already or everything. But like we get more backstory with about him in the books. Like his he had a whole wife backstory. Like his wife, who she dies in Hannibal, but in Silence of the Lambs, she's still alive and she's going through her cancer treatment. She actually dies halfway through the book. So like you get like that Jack Crawford backstory, which I liked because I just like backstory on characters. But I think that was like one of the main things that I noticed when I watched this for the first time in terms of differences between the adaptations. I also think Jack Crawford looks like Woodrow Wilson, the president. I don't know why, but that was that was my connection.
He's so like put together and like just over the top professional in this
Right.
versus my other couple of like immediate touchstones for Scott Glenn, Hunt for Red October, and the character that he plays in the Netflix Marvel shows, Styx. Um, Basically the mentor for Matt Murdock's Daredevil.
Oh, okay. Ah, interesting. Huh.
But Stick. I think it's Stick singular. Maybe it is Stick. Shit. Okay. Yeah, I get that. If you're a fan of a particular book and then there's an adaptation and there's a lot that's like cut out for the sake of, making a 2-hour movie.
Mhm,
I can get the frustration with that for sure. The Shining is a very different film than the book.
mhm.
I like both.
Right.
Um, I think the film stands on its own as a film. It's just that
Mhm.
if you have the knowledge of what happens in the book, it's easy to get upset about it. I think the sequel, Doctor Sleep,
Oh, right.
particularly the film adaptation,
Mhm,
does a really good job of marrying the film and the book of The Shining together, and
mhm.
then basically changing a little bit of the plot from the book of Doctor Sleep to kind of make everything come together.
Ooh,
And it's a Mike
interesting.
Flanagan film, so he has so much respect for Stephen King, and it's just a fucking gorgeous film. If you ever do
Oh,
see it, seek out the director's cut because it
okay.
plays
I
like
will.
more of like a mini series than
Mhm.
a film, and it's the one of the fastest 3 hours you will ever watch.
I'm
And
in.
Ewan
I'm in.
McGregor's great as a grown-up Danny.
I can imagine. Yeah, I didn't realize he played it. Oh,
Oh yeah.
that sold me even more. I'm in. I am in.
What else you got?
I really wanted to try the FBI cake at the end during the graduation. I may have been a little hungry when I watched this last night, but that cake looked
That
really
cake looks
good.
good. That looks expensive.
It's FBI cake. I hope it's expensive.
I mean, we're paying for it.
Exactly. I hope it's damn good cake. I hope it's layered and everything. Like,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
it's a circle. Like, you better be getting. You're getting long slices. Like, that was a decently sized cake. Now I really want cake.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I also really liked. I don't know if this. I may be overthinking this. But with my very limited horror knowledge, but the mask that Hannibal has during when he's transported, when Chilton's in his cell, it looks like half of the Friday the 13th Jason hockey mask, like half of it with like the holes in the. I might once again, I might just be overthinking, but like, oh, horror stuff. Maybe, who knows? Maybe that's similar. Maybe that's homage. It's probably not. But I was like, oh, that sort of looks like the hockey
I
mask.
have absolutely no idea. I would think that if there was some type of mask like that for people that are, let's say biters,
Mm-hmm.
that it makes sense that it would have a few holes in it for
Right.
airflow.
Yeah.
Um, just because otherwise it'd be incredibly uncomfortable. I like the clear version of it on
Mm-hmm.
Hannibal.
Yeah. I do. So I love. I'm gonna go back in. I really like the posters for season 2. Was like very much so like the Anthony Hopkins Hannibal, but with Will Graham.
Mm-hmm.
And I really I liked that crossover a lot because it's like, oh shit, what did Will Graham do?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I really liked that a lot because I really liked Will Graham, and I was like, oh my god, not our little boy with all of his dogs.
I
Oh.
know. It was just encephalitis. Come on.
Go. He did nothing wrong. And he
Ish.
did things. Yeah, not as bad as Hannibal though.
Yeah, exactly.
He wasn't perfect, but
Oh, God.
he's more perfect than Hannibal. I also, after watching this, I'm trying to think of who I liked better as Crawford. Um,
Oh,
Lawrence, I know his last name has fish in it. Lawrence
Fishburne.
Fishburne. Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne, or you just said his name and I can't think of the actor's
Scott
name now.
Glenn.
Scott Glenn. I really liked both of their versions of Jack
Yeah.
Crawford.
Um, I,
It's
f-
so hard.
I feel like Lawrence Fishburne at that time period, with that first season, because that was like 2013, he was just coming off of like a steady stream of roles where he plays that kind of like boss in whatever the organization is that the other characters need to interact with. and he
Mhm.
does, even as Perry White in Man of Steel, I think in the same year, or maybe the year later. That film's actually a lot better than people give it credit for, except for the end of the film. But as Superman films go, um, but there's that Contagion, which oof, if you happen to watch that at any point throughout the pandemic, boy does that film hit hard.
I
Um,
remember hearing about it. I didn't watch it, but I remember definitely hearing about it on Twitter. It's like, oh, that, yeah,
it's a
that's.
really good pandemic movie. And it's just so prescient because basically everything that went wrong for us basically happens in that film. Um, yeah, but yeah, he plays somebody like high up in the CDC. He's almost like the Anthony Fauci of that film.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
but yeah, he's good in that. I think there's some other stuff too that I'm forgetting, but yeah, it's just a steady string of those types of roles. I really like his Jack Crawford. I love his interaction with, at the time, his actual wife as his wife, Gina
Oh,
Torres.
shit.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's
They
so
were
cool.
married at the time. I can't remember exactly when they split up, but yeah, and you can tell. I mean, the chemistry
Right.
is very
That
real
I
between
was
them.
thinking, wow, they got good chemistry. Oh, that makes so much sense now.
Oh yeah,
They did have real chemistry.
but yeah, Scott Glenn is really good in the role.
Hmm.
I can't think who plays Crawford in Manhunter, but William Peterson as of CFI, CFI. That's a company that does work for us. CSI fame plays Will Graham.
Okay.
Um,
Ooh.
and I think definitely a better job than Edward Norton in the Red Dragon remake.
Mhm.
But I don't know. Like I said, would love to get your opinion on that one. It's a movie, all right, and definitely feels 1980s. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, yeah.
So
Um,
then that came out before this. So they filmed this in sequential order. They filmed Red Dragon, then Silence of the Lambs, then Hannibal. Yeah, is that right?
um,
Or
so Silence of the Lambs was the first Anthony Hopkins Lecter movie,
oh,
and then there was Hannibal
mhm.
years later, and then they went back and
Then they.
remade Red Dragon.
Oh, I'm caught
And
up
then we got
now.
Hannibal Rising, and we don't talk about Hannibal Rising, but
Ugh.
it's so not good.
Oh, oh no.
Although I like the stuff from that story that they brought into the TV series Hannibal. It's just
Mhm.
that was the best of all the Thomas Harris stuff thrown into a blender, and let's just make changes as we need to, and just have fun with it. But yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Manhunter is very much its own thing. It did not cause I can't remember what year that movie came out versus The Silence of the Lambs, because I think
mhm.
Red Dragon was like late 70s or early 80s.
Oh, okay.
um can't
Interesting.
remember exactly when Thomas Harris started this series, but
Mhm.
regardless, yeah, that's kind of the chronology.
How fun. Yeah. No, I don't know why I fell in love with the series versus anything else, but I just like I've never read a book. There are very few books, I should say, that I read as fast as I read Silence of the Lambs, and then like even working my way up to watching it, um, I was like, shit, this is good, and I shouldn't have waited this long to read and watch it.
uh
Um,
I feel like I tore through Red Dragon similarly. That book just flies by.
it's so good.
um
It's so
it's, I love that so much of it got adapted into. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
good.
yeah. I love that so much of it made its way into Hannibal before they actually did the Red Dragon story arc in the second half of the third season.
Mhm.
Um, just so perfect.
Yeah,
And Scott
they're
Thompson.
little things.
There's Scott Thompson in the show, which is awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. There's like different things that I'm like picking up throughout each thing, throughout like the Silence of the Mem movie, and then the books, and then the Hannibal TV show. I'm like, oh my god, it's all coming together. This is great. I know where this everything comes from now. It's oh my god, so good, so good. I'm gonna be really sad when I like tear through everything and finish it all. It's
Well,
I
that's yeah. The beauty part is there's not a lot.
right.
So it's very easy to go back and rewatch a lot
Yeah,
of
that's
this
true.
stuff and get your
Yeah.
fix. Um,
That's true. I remember because I started watching Hannibal when I was in London, and I had mentioned it to a coworker, and then like for the rest of my time in London, he always kept asking me, "Where are you in Hannibal? Where are you in Hannibal?" And then my last night that I saw him, I remember I may have been a few pints in, but I remember telling him, I'm gonna write you an essay when I finish Hannibal because he told me there was a big plot twist at the end and then they canceled the show. So I knew that was coming, but I didn't know what it was because I hadn't read Red Dragon yet. I had only read Silence of the Lambs. And I remember I finished it and just messaging him in all caps. They can't end the show that way. Like, I was furious. I was so mad. I immediately started Red Dragon because I needed something. Like, I was just,
yeah, I think that's basically when I read Red Dragon as well. The
mhm.
show was done. Yeah, and I needed the fix.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
I have had to start like being careful because it's like Silence of the Lambs. I feel did read like around campus a few times, like waiting for food, like for dinner or whatever. And I remember I did get a few looks because it's like there's just a random girl reading Silence of the Lambs, and she's freaking oblivious to everything else. And I'm just like, God, it's so good. Listen, read the book. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's fine. You won't get too many nightmares. Do it. Although I will say I have the mass market copy back or paperback of Silence of the Lambs, and it just has Anthony Hopkins' eyes as Hannibal on the spine of it, and it's in my bookshelf back home. I have it flipped the other way because I can't stand just his gaze at me in my bookshelf staring at me. I just know he's there.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Oh, that's funny. Well, perhaps McKenna, this will, you know, act as something more of a gateway into this type of stuff for you. You just never know. As much as you seem to like all of this, I highly recommend Fincher's Zodiac. Um, if you haven't seen it, yep.
I'm writing it down. It's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
You got Robert Downey Jr., you got Jake Gyllenhaal, you got Mark Ruffalo, Anthony Edwards, you got all sorts of people in this 3-hour epic about the Zodiac Killer.
Oh
Um,
shit! Get out. Okay,
and
yeah.
it is Fincher as all get out with all the camera movements and everything. It's very, very cool. It's a little slow because it is, kind of a procedural thing and it takes place over several decades, but it's cool. And if you happen to like that and you like Bong Joon-ho, check out Memories of Murder. It's one of his earlier films that very clearly inspired Fincher with Zodiac, in that it takes place in South Korea. It is about one of the first documented cases of a serial killer. And
Oh.
at the time, their forensic science in South Korea was just not good. They had to like send a lot of stuff out to the States for analysis. And it's a very interesting story. Just insanely shot. It's got a lot of those Bong Joon-ho's sensibilities that you've seen throughout his other films, but it's cool. That one might be on Hulu actually. But again, this is sort of the horror adjacent, more the thriller. So A little easier going for some folks, I guess. But for those people that say, I don't like horror, yeah, you do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everyone
you
does.
do.
Deep down, there's something for everyone.
Absolutely.
I am afraid of everything. If I can find something, anyone can find something. Like,
Speaking of fear, I gotta know, did you ever find out bathroom or kitchenette?
okay, I found out it was kitchenette. It was because that person moved out soon after we recorded that episode of HBO Max, and the door to their bathroom was open, and I could see like the shower and everything. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense now. It's their actual kitchenette and bedroom, not the bathroom, which I'm a little disappointed in. You know, that made for a good story. Just watching some dude eating food like every week in a bathroom.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that it made it into just multiple episodes of your show.
Of course.
Yeah, yeah. So, if you've made it this far into this podcast, by all means, leave kitchenette in the comments below. Just let us know. Let us know that you've made it this far. Makenna, any final thoughts on The Silence of the Lambs?
Watch it. Do it, please. It's been out, what, 31 years now. Do it. Everyone needs to watch it and experience it. Yes. Listen. Or not listen to the silence. But listen. Because it's good. Everything's good. And read the book.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. God, I just don't read like I did when I was much younger. But that would be a fun reread. Just, for giggles.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Makenna, if you'd like, where can people find you?
Ooh, you can find me on Twitter at PotterPants212. There's a link in my bio for other places you can find me. Primarily HBO Max, HBO MAKS, which is a movie review show that I do with one of my good friends, Jose Ruckus. And we have had Joe on before. Very fun episode about Blade Runner. Grand old time. You should check that out. You should check out all the other episodes. I think they're pretty fun. There's some anger. There's gripes. There's trivia. You got it. There's movies. There's love. You got it all. All the emotions, of course.
Questions about neighbors, dorms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything.
No, it's a cool show. And, there's the occasional Simply Sassy episode as well.
Yes.
That's always good stuff. Yeah. You are prolific in the podcast space. That's for sure.
I've had my hand in a few things.
Yeah. But, always good to see. Well, this has been Murders with Mertens, a horror film podcast. Thank you for letting us tickle your ear holes. Please like, share, and subscribe if you are so inclined. I'll be back soon enough with another episode. But until next time, stay spooky, everyone.